Well, hello. Today on the show, I've actually got a man on the, I don't know, how do you even say this? On the dial, on the line. We have spent half an hour fighting with technology, but I now have Matt Thurtell from MLT Industries here with me. How are you, buddy?
Yeah, good. Thanks, mate. Good. Thanks for having me on today.
Oh, bloody pleasure. Mate, what a circus getting us online.
For a electronics developer who can't set up a Zoom meeting, apparently, it was quite a time for
Dude,
both of
and
us.
mate, again, for a man that works in, advertising and production, and I can't make a bloody thing connect with another thing. My favourite part is I obviously come in and set it up like an hour beforehand and test everything. And then once you go to push live, then it goes full potato and it all falls over, which is a fantastic experience.
Yeah, naturally the way it always goes. But hey, we're here now.
Mate, we're here. We've made it.
We
We've
made
done it. And look, I've got you on today to have a chat about a little thingamajig that you've whipped up that I've been tinkering with called the SwitchMaster. And, mate, for people that have no idea what I'm talking about, would you mind introducing this thingamajig for me?
Yeah, no dramas, mate. The SwitchMaster is a all-in-one fuse box, switch box, and control box. This is meant to slot into your dual battery system or your camping system and give you full control over your lights, fridges, any other 12 volt accessories, either from the box itself or through our developed smartphone app.
There you go. And just to get the shameless promotion out of the way, Matt has actually given me one of these for free to test. And I believe that it is, to keep it above board, very important that I disclose that. But, mate, I've been tinkering with it and I've really enjoyed it. My comment to you was that as somebody that considers himself, a little bit techie but not too far down the hole, I enjoy tinkering, enjoy building stuff out myself. And I've obviously got the old 60 series that I run around in. Mate, I've been looking at how I could work it in, and I think I mentioned to you my number one idea was that I'd like to run it as a bit of a party bus, so that I could flick on some underbody LEDs, maybe a smoke machine, disco ball, really important things that you need when you're off road, mate. The good gear. Yeah,
Absolutely.
That's the rabbit hole I'm going down. But mate, this thing is something that you have developed, and it was something that came about because basically you couldn't find a solution for the problem you were having, and you did the old bugger it, I'll make it myself.
Yeah, mate. Yeah. So I was decking out my own canopy a couple of years ago, and I couldn't find a solution that I really liked to do exactly what I wanted it to do. As in, I wanted something that switches in a very basic way, but very effective way. The other products out at the time seemed to integrate a lot of different systems together, and it was just functionality that I purely wasn't going to use. So I came up with my own solution, and here we are.
And with the first one that you made, because the one that I've got, mate, it looks pretty slick. The first one that you built, that was just something you slapped together at home? Like, how did this all happen?
Yeah, so look, I've got a bit of an electronics background. I'm not an electrical engineer per se, but I've got a bit of enough working knowledge to get myself into and out of trouble, I suppose. So I prototyped up my first board and ran that in my own car for 6 months while I got busy programming firmware and developing embedded software and making apps, and then really formalized that with the current designs in a few iterations. So it's really grown from what it first was designed to do to a whole lot more.
And that is, mate, honestly, that's pretty amazing. Because most of the things I look to sort of fill the gaps with, I go, nah, and I'll probably end up just making it worse. So I guess to have had the idea and to have actually brought it to fruition, yeah, mate, there's a bit of skill going on there. You're downplaying it here. But again, talk me through a bit of your background, mate, because how on earth do you get to a point where you can whip up one of these?
Okay, so I'll caveat that by saying the whip up has been an extensive amount of testing, redesign, reiteration, and all that sort of stuff. There is certainly times that things have not worked out the way I've planned, but you game plan around that and do better. So my background is in IT. I've got 20 years. I'm the lead engineer for a current firm as well. So I've got a lot of experience with the end user, and systems design. So I applied those skill sets to what I was doing here. Um, the whole thing's been built from the ground up with the absolute critical importance of user experience and the user interface, and how it works for people. If it's difficult, no one wants to use it. So you've got to try and package that nice, powerful platform in something that's nice and easy to digest for people. And I think I've really nailed it.
Mate, I think you have too, and you've also made it pretty simple to use, because I obviously downloaded the app, and I enjoyed the fact that you could sort of add all the little custom bits and pieces to put your own touch to it, and then it talks via Bluetooth. Is that, have I got that right? So it'll the app on your phone will talk to the SwitchMaster via a Bluetooth connection.
Yep, correct. That's exactly it. So you can download the app, connect to your SwitchMaster. Takes you no more than 30 seconds to set up the box, and you are operational there. From there, you can customize all your switches. You can set your own names, you can set your own pitches. There's, for the power users out there, you can set voltage cutoffs. There's temperature switching as well, which I suppose we can get into later. But it's all designed to be super easy to use and runs off the Bluetooth Low Energy protocol. So you can still have this app connected and still listen to all the tunes in your car, and talk on the phone, all of that sort of stuff. So it's not going to affect any of that.
It's pretty wild, as I said, mate. For a bloke out of the NT who is an IT man, there's a level of stuff going on here that I just think is phenomenal, and that was part of why. When you and I initially spoke, that I thought, what a cool thing to get behind, because nothing like the underdog Aussie company just having a crack, and that's part of the story that I really enjoy, mate. And obviously, you've been a good character to chat with, and that was part of why I thought, I've got to get you on the show, and you've got to tell me a little bit more about this. And here's something we have to get into. What sort of car is it going in?
Okay, so
come on, what's your background, mate? I want it all.
Story of this?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, mate. I'm going to come clean. I'm a Land Rover Tragic.
God.
I am a sucker for the old ones.
No, I just hung up. No.
Don't hang up on me. Don't hang up on me. No, I'm all about the old Land Rovers. First car was a old 75 series Toyota.
Nice. See, that's a good choice.
Sold that. Yeah, that was a good choice. Solid choice. Swapped over from that to a 99 Defender TD5, which was pretty set up. That was good. Now, here's where it gets interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I got rid of that and had a 79 series dual cab on order. Got it. Brand new GVM, the works, mate. Like literally kitted out from front to back.
Mm-hmm.
I had it for 8 months and sold it. I don't know. I
Really?
couldn't do it.
Mate,
mate, it was great. I took it all through Lorella Springs. Like I bashed the SwitchMaster to death in the back of that between Borroloola and everywhere else. But I just couldn't get around it. It was just missing something.
Yeah. Cup holders.
Yeah, that's a sore point. That's a sore point.
And that
my
bloody...
missus never heard the end of that.
Oh, mate. No cup holders, wheel track correction. What were they thinking?
Yeah, look, there's a lot of positives, and there's also like a few negatives that go with that sort of game. So I ultimately end up parting ways with that. I got myself a BT50, which
bloody terrific.
I don't know, just look, it was a great car as well, but I don't know, it just didn't fit with me. And
Gotcha.
3 months ago, I just did a 5-day drive back from the Gold Coast in an 07 Defender 130 Ute.
Bloody
So
hell. You're a tragic.
Mate.
You're
I
a tragic. You just want to make your life difficult, don't you?
Hey, this one has air conditioning, so
Does
I'm
it?
pretty happy about that.
Well, for
Yeah,
now.
like
For now.
aircon that works. So,
Oh,
real prerequisite to NT driving.
yeah,
The
mate.
first one
Bit
didn't,
rough.
and it was like getting tumble dried whenever you were whenever you went for a drive. So
Yeah, that's not a good
it
time.
didn't. She didn't get out much.
No, and actually, sadly, in my cruiser, the AC has just stopped working. It's
Ooh,
like not even a
you know the
fan,
pain.
and I'm like, oh god. And my wife hasn't noticed yet because she hates that car already. So it'd be even worse when she jumps in it and realizes there's no AC as well, and we're doing poor man aircon with the windows down and an arm out the window. So that's
Oh, that's it. That's going to go well.
yeah, that's gonna be great. I can't wait for that chestnut to drop. But anyway, yeah.
These things happen. These
Stupid
things
old
happen.
shitboxes aside. Oh,
Look, you
so
got to love them though.
mate, you
There's
look,
just something about them.
there is, and there's a charm. And look, I've got to say that I drove one of the new Teslas the other day, and here's something: I don't like any of it. I don't like anything about it. Like, I don't like how it turns. I don't like how it stops. I don't like how it accelerates. I don't like how the steering wheel feels. I don't like that it doesn't have door handles. Like, it's cool. Like, and the auto driving thing in the Rambo Road is like cool. But mate, just give me an old dunger any day of the week.
I don't know about you, but I just feel more connected to the whole experience when you're driving something like that.
Yeah.
Like the older stuff. It's
Oh,
good.
totally. It feels like you're driving a tractor, but I love, the turbo whistling and all the, yeah, all the old
Yep.
things. Man of the
Oh,
classics.
yeah.
I
Yep.
again,
Correct.
I enjoy the tech and I like all the toys, but much like our battle to make this call start over the internet, once you add too much, once there's all the trickery from the manufacturers, I find that that's where the cars really get complex, particularly for the sort of stuff we like to do to go to silly places. And that's
Very
where,
much so.
yeah, that's where I guess something that takes the abuse and is not too hard to work on. It becomes a pretty important prerequisite. Because where do
Absolutely.
you go? Where are your favourite places to bash around the NT?
Mate, that's a good question actually. So anywhere down Daly Waters region is
Mm.
really nice. Litchfield's good for a quick day trip away. That's pretty good. There's a few spots closer to town in around Howard Springs. There's a bit of a reserve and all that. There's some pretty wild tracks through there. Um, there's a bit of a caveat on all of that is that during the wet season, December through
Mm.
to March, April, you're not going anywhere
Mm.
because it's under a meter of water. Like you're not,
Yeah.
it's just over. Like so, that April to sort of May, June sort of thing is the best time to sort of go anywhere because the water's still flowing. The parks and wildlife have usually opened up and done the croc watch so you can go swim at these places and all that sort of
Nice.
gear. Um, and yeah, everything's still green. It's pretty dry up here at the moment.
Mate, I'll bloody bet it is. So April to June's the pro tip.
That's the go. That's the go. More May to if you're into your fishing, April is the go.
Right?
That's barra season. That's the end of the wet.
Yeah,
It's called the
gotcha.
runoff, and that's the time to hit that. So there's a lot of trips out to the Mary River, Shady Camp,
Hell yeah.
Dundee Beach, the iconic sort of places, Finnis River. So a fair bit of that goes on too.
All the good stuff, mate. Because you're born and bred in the NT? Are you always from
I'm
there?
not actually.
Really?
Queensland. Yep.
Get out of
Yep.
town.
So I'm a fairly recent arrival to the NT as far as the NT is concerned.
Really?
I've been here for four-ish years.
Whereabouts from Queensland
Um,
are you from?
Airlie Beach.
Really? So top end of town.
Yeah, always up north, mate. North of the
Mate.
Tropic of Capricorn is generally the rule.
And please tell me you've done the foam night at Magnum's.
Yeah, there's been a few nights of attendance at that one, mate. I can tell you that.
Yeah, buddy.
Yep.
Ah,
Correct.
and it was work that got you over to the NT, was it? The project that you're on now.
Um, Look, a little bit of everything, to be honest. Uh, I'd been in Ellie for a long time, and it was, I just got the feeling there was something else out there. And so where's somewhere else that, I'm into fishing, I'm into camping, this is the sort of stuff I like to do on the weekends. Where is the mecca for that? and the answer I come up with was, the NT, essentially. So yeah, here I am.
And I'm led to
That's
believe
it.
you can get fireworks. Is that something you can get onto year round, or is
Um,
that not as exciting as
Not all
I
year
think it
round.
might
That's
be?
the 1st of July only.
Really? One day only?
Mate, one day only for 5 hours, and trust me, that's almost all you need.
Oh,
I get a fair bit of it out of my system in that amount of time.
there
It's a
you
good
go.
night.
Mate, I'll bloody bet it is. Because, yeah, we really
Yep.
feel like we
If you
miss
haven't
out.
done it, you've got to do it.
Yeah, I haven't done that. So what's that, 1st of July?
1st of July. That's it.
For the
Territory Day.
for the boomsticks.
Yep.
All
Good
right.
fun.
Yeah,
Good fun.
I'll have to circle back to that. Mate, how many years ago did you start working on the old SwitchMaster? What's the timeline on this?
Okay, so that first kickoff was really 2021 in earnest. It had sort of bounced around my head. I'd done a couple of different smaller iterations and, just sort of mapped it out. But the first proper iteration, the one that I took and is still going actually through Lorella Springs, that was mid 2021. And
Yeah,
that's when
right.
I decided that it was time to really pursue it and get stuck into it.
Yeah, right. So mid 2021. So that was the middle
Yep.
of the spicy flu.
Correct.
But it didn't get as far inland, did it?
No, mate. We were pretty good up here. I think we had 8 days of lockdown
Wow.
in total.
Wow.
It was business as usual.
Isn't that ridiculous?
But look, there was a lot of there's a lot of stuff on either side of the debate and all that sort of stuff. But one thing I can say is the NT government sort of did do a good job in keeping the airports and all that sort of stuff. Because mate, we were fully autonomous in here. Like there was no.
Okay.
There was what's lockdown essentially. We see all this
Wow.
stuff on the news,
Oh,
and it was just
mate.
business as usual for us.
Yeah, we would wait for Anna to come on TV in the morning and tell us what we were or were not allowed to do each day
Yep.
at the 8:30 briefing. And yeah, even worse if you were down south in Mexico. So that was real bad down there. near the woods.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I could have taken
Far
that much
out.
time
Well,
inside.
they were
Oof.
200 days locked in their boxes. But, mate, up in the NT, let her rip.
Yeah, pretty much.
Far
3 days, everyone was champing at the bit, and everyone decided that was probably all they could
That
keep
was like,
everyone
yeah,
inside for.
that's
So
enough. And then, mate, just send it out to the bush and go, should be right.
pretty much.
So,
Pretty much.
so mate, the actual product itself is still, relatively speaking, a fairly new thing.
Yeah, in a way. In terms of timeline, yes. In terms of development time and actual work, it's been very in depth and very well thought out and very well game planned. So yes, it might be relatively fresh on the scene. However, the T's have been crossed and the I's have been dotted, so to speak.
Mate, I believe that.
I've given these a really good flogging in a lot of environments. We're up in the NT. It's hot. It's wet. It's humid. It's a pretty good test bed to see what stuff is capable of. You weed out the average gear pretty quickly.
And did you have a few things? Were there components and things that did actually fail in your early testing? Stuff that you went, whoa, that's a weak link.
Look, there was a lot of research because this was done as a sort of real passion project. I took a lot of advice off mates who are electrical engineers, and they work in various forms for defense in various areas. So I got a lot of good advice on how to select components that were going to take the punishment from the get-go. There was definitely a few things that didn't work out correctly. Usually in my design phase, to be totally honest, one glaringly obvious thing was the lack of reverse polarity protection, which unbelievably I never ran into when I was testing, myself in my own vehicles, in my boat, on the bench, all that sort of gear. But, there were certainly things that slipped through that needed to be addressed. So, yeah, not so much at the component level, more at the systematic level.
Because I think that's fascinating, because you think about companies that go and produce these things and the scale that they're working at and the size of the teams to develop it, and you're just one bloke like making it, thinking it through, talking to your friends and going, wonder how that's going to go. And mate, like it's a, it's a real credit to you for, the level of
Thanks.
effort.
Yeah, it's been like, mate, it's been attacked from a lot of different angles, and this is what I did my day-to-day job in systems engineering. So you've got to think of not just, is this going to work perfectly? Like, how does this work when things don't go perfectly? How can we stress this thing? How can we break it? Like, those are the sorts of questions that need to be asked, and they need to be game planned around from the get-go, essentially. And I think that sort of attitude in mind with like, right, let's overgun this so we know whatever anyone's going to do with it, it's going to be able to handle is a good thing straight up.
Because, mate, that sort of level of innovation and commitment, something that I noticed, you had a Kickstarter when I was digging through. Is that correct?
That's correct.
To
Yes.
get this thing off the ground, mate. Can you talk to me about how that all came together and what happened there?
All right. So I actually had iteration one of my boards out, and I was pretty much deciding like, right, where does this go from here? You know, do I release this into the wild for everyone to use, or do I continue developing this further? It was a real crossroads sort of moment.
Yeah.
So I was like, right, I'm gonna really put this together and do up a Kickstarter and put it out to the community. And if it does well, that's the message, right? That's the go. And we hit over 220% of our targeted goal.
Wow.
So, that's it was pretty resoundingly clear.
And how
get it done.
So I've never done a Kickstarter. I've supported a couple over time. I've read some things on the how-to and the correct process and all that sort of stuff. But mate, where do you even get started?
Good question. And my answer for that is at the start. I looked at, I did a fair bit of homework on this, on like, other successful Kickstarters, what they did, what people wanted to hear. I asked a lot of friends, I asked a lot of random people just during, if I was out camping, like what would you like to hear if you were going to buy this or you're looking at this or whatever. So there was a lot of free research done into crafting the Kickstarter. Got down and got busy and got stuck into it for 2 weeks before I kicked it off. And yeah, well, the results speak for itself, really.
And it does. I've actually got the Kickstarter here in front of me, and I'm going through it. And I guess the amount of detail down to the circuit diagram and the images of what I assume was that sort of one of your was that an early iteration? It looks a lot like the one that I've got with the 5, and then you've got the bigger one there as well. Yeah,
correct. So because I was actually speccing this out to deck out my canopy at the time, the big version was the original version. So That's got 8 20 amp outputs and 2 up to 50s with just standard automotive relays. A lot of feedback I got afterwards was like, that's awesome, but it's too big. I want to be able to do a couple of work lights and run my fridge off on. So that's where the smaller one was actually born from.
Yeah, gotcha. So
both of those are iteration 1, and iteration 2 is just about to hit the shores, hit the stands.
There you go. And what do you sort of? How did the Kickstarter get out there? Because I assume you just would have shared it on your socials and stuff. Is that how?
Mate, pretty much. I haven't had Facebook for 5 years, and I turned my Facebook back on to fire this back up, and got it out on the socials and some Facebook ads, mate, and it went viral from there. Essentially, I think it got shared to a few of the 12-volt pages on Facebook, camping pages. I definitely know it went on the Isuzu D-Max page because one of my mates messaged me to tell me it was on there.
There you go.
So it went round the twist pretty good, and it generated its own publicity.
So there was clearly a need for something like this. Because are there any of the other companies that sort of do stuff like this? Like, is there anyone making something like this?
Yeah, look, there is, but not I think the individual takes and individual flavors of what really defines what is going to work for somebody in particular. Um, there was also a lot that if you check their, Bluetooth control, cool, all well and good. But you look at their app hasn't been updated for 2 years and it's full of 1 or 2 star reviews because it doesn't work.
Right.
That is absolutely not what I am about at all.
Gotcha.
So, for me, Bluetooth is not tacked on as an afterthought. Bluetooth is the main functionality. So the app has to be bulletproof. So, both mobile apps were written in-house by me. The software on the board was written by me. I've custom written the Bluetooth control protocols.
Right.
So, the results speak for himself. You can get 45, 50 meters of range from the back of your canopy with a phone.
Gotcha.
So, that's the level of control, and that's the level of how do I say this? The level of finesse that I wanted to be able to bring to the game, which I thought people were missing.
And talk to me about like the GitHub, because I saw that you've got stuff up on there. Is this so that people can build on, or how does that work? And again, I don't even understand, mate. Educate me.
Yeah. So GitHub is a programming platform, not so much programming platform. It's called a code repository. So when you build software, all of that is code, and then that gets compiled into workable apps of whatever flavor that you're developing for. GitHub is a way to store that and do version control. So if you make a little change, you can see what changes were made and you can go back in time, all that sort of stuff. GitHub also make it possible to share code with other people under various licenses. So you can put that information out there so people can use it. So what we're aiming to do is all of these Bluetooth ecosystems from other, and just products in general, four-wheel drive products in general, are locked down by their maker, right? So you're stuck with an inferior Bluetooth app that doesn't run on a newer version phone, or crashes all the time, or has bad range or whatever, or it's simply not available on the platform that you want. We're giving people the tools to, if you've got the smarts to do it, you can do it. So you can write your own software that ties into the SwitchMaster. The communications protocols are published. So if there is software or you would like to integrate it with another system, you are free to do so.
Yeah, gotcha. Okay, well, that's pretty wild all by itself. And I guess it's just a different approach because, as you said, I mean, generally all this stuff is locked down. Yeah.
But why, though?
To
why?
prevent people.
I get the why on some areas, but to me, the end goal is user satisfaction. And if people, there's a lot of people out there that enjoy doing their 12-volt system, or, pick a hobby. There's a lot of people out there that would like to integrate something like this potentially into their existing system. So if I give them the tools to do that, they have options and they're capable of doing it.
And what have you seen people do with it? Has anyone surprised you with it and the stuff that they've gone and run with, or all sort of as you
some
you'd
people
think?
I've done a bit of demo code. So Garmin smartwatches, for example, I run Garmin. I have done some code up for that as a bit of a proof of concept, just to show people, like, if you've got one of the Phoenix watches or any of the other Garmin smartwatches, you can program anything essentially, as long as it's got Bluetooth, to be able to communicate with this thing.
Yeah, right.
We have added a few platforms in by default that I don't think anybody else has done yet. Our app has and device supports Apple Watch, so you can control your device entirely from your wrist without the need for a phone at all.
Yeah, gotcha. And it was that sort of stuff, and these were all the things that sort of surprised me. When you and I first spoke, and I looked at this, and I'm like, it's a different. It's a different approach, and you certainly see a lot of the stuff. particularly across the electrical things and in a lot of four drive stuff, you certainly do get the feeling that a lot of stuff is the same product with a different badge. Seems to
Correct.
be.
Correct.
Yeah.
And then you look in the background, they suffer from the same issues. Like,
Yeah.
you know, our electronics is developed from the ground up. It is ours.
Yeah. Because even.
Our software is developed from the ground up. It's ours. You know, it's how we drove it to be, not how somebody else wanted it to be. You know, and we've had a lot of times where people have come back like, hey, this would be a pretty cool feature. And I've thought, shit, yeah, that is actually a wicked feature, and sat down and, you know, roadmap this thing out. And some of those features are in there today. The timers, for instance, that was someone else's idea. That were like, hey, man, it'd be really cool if I could, you know, turn a switch on, set a timer so it can turn off in 15 seconds after I've climbed up into my rooftop tent. And I said, I totally agree.
That is a fantastic idea. And then you can just hit that and it does the thing by itself.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's, I don't know, as I said, I sort of like that approach. Much like,
you know, we've got the fluidity to take feedback on board. If something is not working for you, you know, we want to see it, we want to fix it. It's not just going to get brushed, essentially.
And just muck it around. And mate, what's the future? You know, when you sort of think about SwitchMaster and what you've built here, and like, are there other products? Are there other ideas? Or is this just really suck it and see?
No, mate, there's a fair bit in the pipeline at the moment, some things which are actively getting worked on. So we've obviously got the SwitchMaster and the SwitchMaster Maxi, its bigger brother. So we've got 5 by 20 amp outputs. The Maxi is 8 by 20s and 250s. We've had a lot of requests from bigger canopies or truck builders, you know, like the bigger Isuzu 4x4s and all that sort of stuff that are getting decked out, and vans. There will be an ultra version out in the near future, which will be capable of, you know, hundreds of amps of switching. Then we're digressing into a few other areas as well. All right, I'm going to let the cat out of the bag.
Mate, let it rip.
We're working on a pneumatic air controller now for airbag systems.
Oh, yes.
And I can promise you, no one has done pneumatics like this.
So we can slam my BMW from the 90s. It
will be on. I'm telling you. It is special.
Really?
It is good.
Pneumatic.
It's going to be good.
Controls. Because, mate, I've been here going, do I go coils or do I do bags? Am I getting this right here? I'm sure it's pneumatics for, you know, for more grown-up things. But, you know, when you talk to me, it's going to go straight to Dumbtown. That's
Why
really
not, mate?
cool.
You got to have fun,
mate. You do.
You got to have fun.
You got to do things that make you laugh. Wow. Okay. And how did that come about? Was that just sort of maybe a commercial partnership, or again just somebody saying, "Hey, can you do this?"
Someone saying, "Hey, this doesn't work for me now. This would be really cool if this worked."
Wow.
Or you could do this, and you know, on closer inspection, I fully agreed. So
there you go.
Here we are. So we're aiming to have many products. You know, we've got a battery isolator and all that sort of stuff as well in the pipeline, like a user configurable one. There's a few things like that. Now, we've taken the approach of, instead of hardware tying all these products together, as you see with some other vendors, my approach is the app ties everything together. So if you have a version 2 SwitchMaster now that you buy, and a year and a half later you want to buy XYZ that tacks onto it, that's not a problem. The whole thing works no matter what. So that the app ties that all together, instead of the switch, you know, the SwitchMaster V2 doesn't know what XYZ is down the track, right? So instead of putting the user through the pain of firmware upgrades and all that sort of gear, and, you know, a lot of potential heartache if they have no real idea of how they do that sort of stuff, all they have to do is update the app on their phone, and that's it.
And then that'll bring it all forward. So you'll make sure
that'll bring everything together. Yep.
But it'll continue to work with, previous generations.
Yep, that's exactly it.
Because it's proprietary architecture on both sides.
Yeah, correct. So the hardware talks to the app, and the app will do everything else in the middle of that to make sure that all of these devices can chit chat with each other and do exactly what they need to do. So there's no upgrading or mucking around necessary for the end user. You know.
Okay, and as you sort of move forward, I mean, what have been the biggest challenges? You've obviously got a great product, but it's obviously always a challenge getting things to market. But mate, what have you sort of found gets in your road as you try and push forward?
Um, that's a good question. And the simple answer to that is actually getting it out there, right? I'm an engineer. I'm a technical person. Um, it's been difficult to get it out there to show people because I don't really know how to do it, right? Like I don't want to sell something to like you because I don't want to sell it to you, but I obviously love it. But the whole thing loses all the fun for it when I'm trying to sell it. So that's been a real difficult challenge for me to get over. Like how do I actually tell people about this and not feel funny about it? Like I love it and I back it 100%. So I actually had a real turning point for me was the Darwin 4x4 show, actually. Um, we had a booth set up there with two SwitchMasters set up and ready to go that people could walk up, download the app on their own phone and play with it on the spot. And to walk people through the app and how to use it and actually see people respond to it was a game changer for me. It was really enjoyable. And it was good to see a lot of decisions I made early on about the usability and all that sort of stuff pay off because, people weren't standing there for 5 minutes trying to work out how to configure this thing or how to join it with their phone. You know, it was intuitive and it was excellent to watch. So that was yeah, that was a real turning point on that sort of front. It was good.
So that's the big challenge. It's the engineer going over to sales and marketing.
That mate, that's you've just nailed it, you know. That's exactly it. That's exactly it.
And
Once people see the things though,
well, that is the
it's
hard part
it's awesome. That's the hard part.
because you understand the intricacies. But the funny thing is it's the sizzle. It's all the sexy stuff that gets people across the line most of the time. They're happy it does all the things, but they're probably less concerned about how it does it. Whereas you're obviously intimately married to the how and the why.
Yeah, mate. Like I'm almost in too deep. Like, someone's like, "Oh yeah, how does it work?" And they just want a quick,
Yeah,
you join your phone to it
yeah.
and it works.
Plug it in,
Whereas
screw the
I'm,
wires in, and you're like, well,
yeah, like, all right, I can, do you want me to talk about the custom protocol I wrote for Bluetooth switching? Like, you tell me. Like,
yeah. How,
I'm
how far down the rabbit
too
hole,
far in.
Chief?
Yeah,
And they're
exactly.
like,
Like, mate, I could be here for days. How
mate,
long you
there's a
got?
Simpsons reference there, but they're going, oh, hey, slow down there, kid.
Yeah, bit of Professor Frank action going on.
Oh, mate, that is exactly the one. And talk to me about, so is it PCB? Is that what it's called? The board, the
Yeah, so that's
thingamajig that it
printed
all.
circuit board. So that's the actual electronics. Yep.
There you go. Now I understand what it actually stands for. Because when I opened it up and had a look, I was like, that's pretty fancy. Because again, when somebody's sending you, you're just like, no idea. And so printed circuit board. So that's something that is then designed and manufactured to your specification to then
Absolutely.
follow all those things. And something you've mentioned a few times is the different amperage that it handles. Now,
Yep.
again, you got to dumb it down for me. Why is this a big deal? Because I'll be honest with you, I actually don't understand.
Gotcha. So how much amperage it handles depends on how much you can do with it. So how much you can plug in. Um, if you're only running a handful of LED lights, you're going to be lucky to be dragging, maybe depending on your lights, of course, 10 amps. So not much. A fridge, for example, is anywhere between 4 and 7, or a little bit more, depending on your fridge. So these things have all got to be sized appropriately for what you're going to do. We were trying to give people um, a good range of what they can do. So our devices can do 5 times 20 amp switches. Um, which is going to be more than enough for the average dual cab, which is what that was designed to do. The bigger maxis can do, up like 50s. They can switch 50s and 820s. So you can just put a lot more power through the board. You can run a
Gotcha.
lot more gear, and you can run a lot more heavier duty stuff. That's it.
Because I assumed that that was the thing, was the power through the board so that you don't nuke it. Because, as somebody who built his own stereos early on, I have nuked a couple of things in automobile electronics as I've accidentally let things touch things that they shouldn't.
Yeah, there's been that's always a good time.
Yeah,
They really go, don't they?
yeah, mate, the sizzle and boom, and you're like, I think that was bad.
Yeah, that was quick too. Like there's no time to respond to that.
Yeah, can you tell I'm having bad memories as I even talk about it?
Yeah, exactly. So like, and on that, like the how much power you drag through a system and all that sort of stuff depend like will heat the circuits up to a certain degree and the wiring and all that sort of gear. So there's a lot of different factors and a lot of calculations that need to be taken into account here to make sure the solution is robust. So we use not standard PCBs. We use extra thick copper on all of our boards to make sure that they can handle the heat. We've done thermal calculations on all these boards to make sure they can take the heat literally. Um, you know, we go out on 2-3 week trips, mate. We don't want issues. I use my own gear. The last thing I want is to be stuck somewhere at a prime campsite out the Coburg Peninsula, eight, you know, 400 Ks of half-meter corrugations from any sort of semblance of civilization on a fishing trip of the year, and then something doesn't work on day one or day two. That's just not an option for me.
No, that's not really the way you want it to go.
Exactly right. So things have been designed with that in mind. We've done a whole heap of redundant switching. So, if you drop your phone in the drink on day two of your trip, you can still use and switch on all of your lights and all of your gear completely independent of any of the Bluetooth operations. So there's a lot of redundancy and a lot of other little factors that have been game planned around here. Worst case scenario things.
Gotcha. And that's the switches on sort of the left hand side, so the physical ones. They're the
Yeah,
overrides.
correct. Yeah, correct. So there's override switches on that, and there's also a which will be available just a little bit later. We've developed a remote switching panel, so you can run some cables from the SwitchMaster
Ah,
and put a separate set of override switches anywhere else that you
gotcha. So if
desire.
you got the thing hidden away, then you can have a little
Correct.
control panel
Yeah, exactly right.
as well. Okay,
That's
well
exactly it.
that makes sense. And again, mate, and this is mainly for my own education here now. So with the USBs down the bottom, are they just constant power? That's just to give you a couple of more things of
Yeah, so
juice.
that's mate. I'm always charging head torches or bloody
Oh,
GoPros
mate,
or
everything.
everything's USB now. So the V1, the V1 was 4 USBs, 4 1 amp USBs. Now we've actually just got to the bottom of this, and I can let this out of the bag now. We were designing, we trimmed it down to two USBs, to 2.4 USBs. My theory was I'd rather have something charged quickly. In my opinion, I'd rather my GoPro or my phone or whatever charge quicker than be able to plug more stuff in. That's personally more useful to me, and the people I surveyed agreed. So drop 2 USB ports, and we've upped the amperage on it. Now that didn't actually work out because I didn't like the electronics package that we used. So the SwitchMaster V2 got another upgrade, and there's now two quick charge 3.0 ports on there capable of a full 20 watts each. So if you plugged your dead flat phone in there within 45 minutes to an hour, depending on the phone, you will have a fully charged phone. So, there's a few pretty massive improvements in that area, which I think, was a lot of work and a lot of pain to go through, but the juice was worth the squeeze.
And mate, I've got to agree with you there. I'm never more irritated than when I discover I'm slow charging, particularly the phone. Like, well, mate, when I plug the phone in, it says you are 7 hours until full, and I'm like, fuck.
I don't have time for this.
Oh, because even with a new smartphone, I run the thing flat twice a day. Yeah, and quite often I've got it nearly flat by like 8 or 9 a.m. because it's one of my main work tools. So yeah, I'm also in that full bore camp. I'd rather less at maximum power.
Yeah, 100%. I figured people are probably going to be able, especially with the quick charge 3 ports, they're going to be able to charge 4 times the devices that they could have with just the 2, rather than having 4 lower powered ones. And another little bit of an upgrade as well is they're now wired up to the microcontroller as well. So you could flick those. They're essentially another output. So you can flick those on and off through the app if you want. So, if you chuck in some lights or fairy lights or whatever, I don't know, whatever people want, that's all switchable by the app now too.
And look, the thing that I find a little bit crazy about this whole story is that you're also working full time as well.
Yeah, it's mate, the deadlines are quickly running up, but at the moment, I tell you something for free, I'm never doing a dual product launch ever again. But look, it's good. I love it. I'm all about it.
Love the chaos. What does your current employer think? Do they love it, or are they like, settle down, champ, you got things to do here?
Okay, so 2 things on that. One, everyone's pretty into four-wheel driving and all that sort of stuff up here, so everyone's been pretty on board with the side hustle development on that front.
That's pretty sweet.
And they've actually been a really good test bed. Everyone's got one in their car. So naturally, it's like, I'll give you this, but here's what I need from you.
There you go, mate.
It's been a good trade-off.
Greasing the wheels of industry.
100%. 100%.
That's what it takes, though, mate.
Yeah, mate. Exactly. Kickbacks. So, yeah, the boys have been provided with ample four-wheel drive hardware. Let me tell you.
That's wicked.
But look, I have to say, there's been a lot of, because we've developed the mobile app in house. We've developed the firmware, like the code that actually runs on the microcontroller itself in house. There's been a good cross-pollination of skill sets there in programming. So, much more time on the tools in my spare time has enabled much more time in those areas at work as well. So there's been a quite symbiotic, I suppose.
Isn't that lovely?
That's the best way to put it.
I must say, the reason I sort of do, I have a lot of side projects, but I actually find them helpful because when I do throw my mind and my energy into something totally unrelated, that's actually where all the breakthroughs come for the other things. Whenever I throw my mind down a different channel, I find it fascinating how that works.
Yeah, exactly. And talking to other people, right? Like, I'll be out camping and so I'll flick my lights on with my phone and someone will be like, holy shit, what was that?
What just happened?
So then you end up talking, yeah, what'd you do? Or like I flicked it on from the Mrs. Apple Watch.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, okay, show me.
Yeah.
So then you just get chit-chatting with people over a beer or whatever. And people are just throwing ideas or, like, what happens if this happens?
That's cool.
It's good because that sort of, not just with side hustles, like the organic ability to switch back and forth between different situations and listen to different points of view can provide other points of view for things that you're already doing, right? And better ways to do stuff. So it's been really important to take that feedback on board from the get-go.
I think that's really cool. And I don't know if your camping trips are anything like the ones that I go on, but they're a massive pissing competition. And every time you go out, you've just got to one up a little bit more.
Yeah, look, I had a pretty sweet moment a couple of weeks ago. We're out. I'm not going to mention any brands.
Fair enough.
I don't want to. That's not the game I want to play.
No,
right?
no.
So,
high road.
Yeah, 100%. But another guy we're out with had spent a significant amount of dollars into nearly touching the 5-digit sum on his electronics.
Yikes.
And we were just talking. One of the boys brought up Bluetooth and all that sort of stuff, and it was, yeah, I've got all that on my phone. Look, check this out. And he ended up having to stand at the front of his bonnet to get information from his system.
Ooh.
Right. And I was like, all right, watch this. And whipped out my phone and gave it to another mate instead, start walking. And he got about 35, 40 meters away before he was like, okay, I've had enough and I'm coming back. So I'm generally a man of be humble, but that was a pretty cool feling.
Mate,
that
there
was
is
a pretty cool feeling.
Brooklyn Nine-Nine, the self-burn. Those are rare.
Yeah, did not turn out the way.
And like nothing worse than when you've spent the big bucks as well, and the bloody thing doesn't work.
He was just like, okay, shit.
Yeah, and that's absolutely savage.
Yeah, I felt bad at the same time, but at the same time, I think you know the feeling. Like,
oh, mate, absolutely.
It was wicked to see my engineering pay off.
The humble flex.
The context of the context flex was was a bit rough apparently.
Yeah, no, and that's tough to beat. I hope he put an order in.
He's definitely on it. He's definitely on it.
You go, mate. I know you got your tail between your legs, but yeah.
Yeah, so he's like, okay, a couple of mates are getting theirs sorted out. I'll send them your way in future, eh? And I was like, you know it. Yeah. We'll cover them. All good.
And mate, have you got a couple of retailers on board, or do people basically have to come and talk to you?
So we got the online store, but we've got retail partners now. We're in every state and territory in Australia. So we've got a few distributors in WA. We've got a few distributors in South Australia, everywhere, and actively putting on more. So that's a real important part of the support framework for me. I want people to know that they're supported. There's options around the country for them, and if they've got issues, all they need to do is ring.
Yeah.
Right. And they're going to get an answer.
Yeah.
And they're going to get it resolved.
Well, so that's it. You can talk to the main man.
Yeah, we'll be able to really quickly work out exactly what's going on. If there's something wrong, what is actually happening, and if we need to, we can, send new boards out. Like, touch wood, we haven't had to do it yet, so it's a good feeling.
But you can.
But we can, mate. And there's a few things that are built in the app to enable us to actually proactively hit this sort of stuff before it becomes a problem, right? So we use anonymous logging tools, so that it doesn't log anything, your usage or anything. But if there's crashes, it sends us particular bits of information about what was pressed leading up to that.
Gotcha.
What the actual error was, and what the end result of that was, that we actively look at and work on. So, if it's a game breaking or a critical thing because a new version of Android or iOS has come out that's now breaking the app in a particular way.
Yes.
We don't have to get you on the phone and step through it and all that sort of gear.
Yeah.
We can see it and fix it, hopefully before your next camping trip. You know what I mean?
See, that's
so. We're not stuck stopped in a way, if you get me.
No, well, it's proactive, and that's the approach. It's a very different approach, and again, it's the approach of an enthusiast, because you just want it to be good, and I guess not just good. You want it to be the best.
I want it to be good. It's got my initials on it.
Yes.
MLT Industries.
Yeah.
I want it to be good.
So,
if people say, "Oh wow, I've got an MLT SwitchMaster," the first comment is, that is shit hot.
Yeah.
That's what you know.
You don't want someone saying, what a bucket of shit. That's just not what you want with your own initials across it.
Mate, exactly. You nailed it. So, that's exactly the whole philosophy behind the whole thing.
And here's another one for you. Let's say, one of the big groups comes along and says, righto, let's make this happen. I mean, do you have the capacity to scale, or does your back end? Because again, mate, you're one man, to the best of my knowledge.
Yeah, correct.
What does your infrastructure look like as you roll forward?
Pretty good, mate. I have the ability to scale very quickly,
There you go.
very, very quickly. It, like barring part shortages, which have been rife in the electronics industry at the
Yeah,
moment. Since the start of COVID, the whole semiconductor industry is quite a time to deal with. Let me tell you,
indeed.
trust me, there's parts that you can look on the big supplier, the worldwide suppliers, and there will be a million of these things available in stock, and you can check 2 days later, and there'll be none, and the lead time is like 3 months.
Yeah, wow.
So, yeah, like it is wild. So, and some of these parts are not really so much the ones that are made in the millions, but there's some in the tens of thousands that are. There's one particular thing that does a particular job.
Yeah.
Now, it's got a particular size, it needs to fit into a particular place, all that sort of gear. So you've really limited your alternatives there. And if there is none of those, it's a minor board redesign.
Yeah.
So it's a that sort of stuff is a bit of a pain in the ass, but we're well set up to
Gotcha.
deal with that
But
sort of stuff
not life
and
and
game
death.
plan around it.
And I guess that's it. I'm just kind of throwing you under the bus here in real time because, despite the fact,
Bring it on.
I'm here, I guess, broadly endorsing what you're doing. But, I'm bought and paid for. So, why would anybody believe me? And I guess that's why I'm just asking these things is it's
Fair enough.
but I think it's important to know, and these are the sorts of things that I'd want to know and go, hang on, is it just, what else is going on here? And it's important to know where it came from, where it's going, what its philosophy is. And I guess those were the things that I was trying to get a little bit more of a feel. And that was why I was, I guess, really keen to chat to you today about all this stuff.
Yeah, for sure, mate. I really appreciate getting me on here to be able to talk about all this sort of gear. I love it.
Yeah,
obviously.
mate, it's bloody cool. And yeah, I think we've got to talk more because I'm actually really interested to hear some of the other things. And some of the stuff I think I probably don't want to say it all out loud. So I'm interested to hear more because I'm pretty excited to follow this journey because this is exciting stuff.
Mate, it's going to be good.
Yeah.
The aim is to change the game of Bluetooth.
Change the game of Bluetooth.
Yep.
And
the thing that was an afterthought tacked on is now centerpiece and ready to go.
Can I tell you something funny? A friend of mine who is actually, I believe he is actually an electrical engineer and oddly in the army, and he's right up the chain these days because he's old and middle-aged like I am. But I remember him showing me Bluetooth on his flip phone in about 2001 or 2 and going, this is going to change everything because like he actually understood what it did. And I'm here in 2023 going, I can like do my headphones and a few things. But I remember him telling me all sorts of stuff that it had the capacity to do and things that I just haven't seen happen yet.
Yeah, like that. And I think that's not so much Bluetooth's fault, but a lazy approach. And I'm not talking in the electronics four-wheel drive industry in general. I'm talking like everywhere. There up until fairly recently, the safe bet was to do something a particular way, for example, right? Whereas there's now options now and the ability to do things differently, right? And do it properly. Like you can demonstrate that, right? We've done this different and it works good. So, there is the ability for things to be quite fluid in the tech world, and the same idea applied in a different way, or the same particular bit of technology on the front value applied in a different sort of way can really change the end experience of that bit of tech.
Because have you sort of done this a different way? And again, this is where you got to dumb it down for me. Like, is the way that you've done it different to how it's done, or are there other people? Educate me, mate. What is it? Explain like I'm 5.
Yeah, good old Eli 5.
Yeah.
Quite simply, yes. We've done things in a different way. Without going too crazily into detail, we looked at the way general transmission and receiving and all that sort of stuff works between different devices. Look, this is a pretty hefty dive into Bluetooth, I must say. This was not a quick. This wasn't an Arvo project.
Can imagine
to do. Like, there was quite a lot of analysis and all that sort of stuff done on all this to work out, right, what's the optimum packet sizes of information that we want to send from the phone to the device? What's the optimum sizes that we want to send from the device to the phone? What's the quickest way we can process this? What takes up the least amount of memory on the microcontroller so we can fit more functionality in? These were all things that were really looked at a incredibly deep level and game plan from the front up, um, to be efficient, really. And that efficiency keeps things simple, and that simplicity means things work, right? If there's only one thing that it's relying on, there's only one thing to go wrong, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
If you've got 10 different systems that are all talking to the same thing, if one of those systems, and you haven't accounted for that in your design, goes wrong, all of it falls over like a house of cards. So keeping things really simple and really structured in a really simple but effective way generates a number of benefits, really.
No, it makes sense. And I appreciate you, again, dumbing it down for me, because I enjoy learning. Like, I enjoy understanding, even though I might not be able to fully grasp it. When you can, I guess, you're like, I'm fine. But I go, okay, so it transmits a certain way. You found a way to shrink the packets of data. You found a way to, I guess, streamline and improve efficiency in the way that the Bluetooth protocol talks between the two different things.
Yeah, correct. Exactly right.
There you
Exactly
go.
right. And we've got this down to such a fine degree now that our board at full tilt with full Bluetooth services uses 68 milliamps in full operation. Like, it's nothing.
Okay, and again,
Absolutely nothing.
dumb it
So,
down for me.
that's
What's
not
that
an explain
equivalent?
like I'm five.
What
So,
what's that equivalent to? What could I liken that?
put it
68.
this way, a small LED work light, depending on the size of the light, maybe half an amp to an amp,
Right.
which is roughly draws 200 times more power than our board does.
There you go. That is.
So there you go.
There you go. So it's using
Nothing.
bugger all,
Essentially.
bugger
Correct.
all, so that it's not creating a drain on the additional infrastructure.
Yeah, correct. And like no drain and the end result is that there's minimal drain on your battery system. There's no overhead to running this and having everything turned on and being able to use this sort of gear. So there's guilt-free electrically in a way.
And see, that is clever, because this is, and again, one of my mates, Jimmy, who's been building up his 60 series, which I've got to tell you is going to be one of the best 60s in Australia by the time he's finished with it.
Wicked.
He has had just like punch yourself in the face nightmare trying to get his electrical system right. We joke that he's driving around in a nuclear reactor because he's got his two batteries at the front, then he's got a pile of lithium in the back. He's had to upgrade his alternator 3 times, and he's actually still looking for the gremlin because the bloody thing keeps going flat. So there's power going to places it shouldn't go.
Yep.
And yeah, like we all sort of stand there and like, we half laugh, we half scratch our heads, and we half, feel the fetal position of pain as you try and chase your gremlins around the car. So I don't know, it's the enthusiasm of somebody that understands all that and appreciates that you're trying to make it simple, streamlined, easy, and all that sort of stuff. I don't know, like that's...
Look, in my day-to-day job, the things that users like the best and that work and people use are the simplest.
Yeah.
Simple as that. In a not sort of bizarre way. If people can understand it, they can drive it really easily, and it doesn't require a degree to operate. People use that sort of stuff. Like, look at the iPhone. That literally changed the game of phones, right? Touchscreen made things accessible to people. It was a seminal moment in the phone industry. And it was easy, and it still is. Like, I'm an Android man through and through, I've got to say. The missus is iPhone. The rest of my family's iPhone. But I have to say, the simplicity, for example, of my dad taking a photo on his phone and then we get home and we can look at all the pictures that we took of the day at the beach, right, on the TV, through the Apple TV, through iCloud, and on the iPad and all that sort of stuff. It just works. And that's what people want. Like, it's just good.
Is. They
it is just good.
Yeah. Most people don't want to mess with it, whereas those of us with Androids, you know that we at least half know what we're talking about.
That's it, mate. Androids and old Defenders and bloody 60 series.
60 series. Yeah, they're the signals that people
yeah.
you know that they're not going to come at you with a Hotmail address. That's always
on.
the one for
like
me.
It's on.
Now, mate, I'm conscious of your time, and I know that you've sort of done 2 days' work today. Mate, if people want to get themselves a SwitchMaster, where do they go?
Okay, so our website, mltindustries.com.au, is the place to go.
Beautiful.
We've got our online store set up there. We've also got a list of our retail partners as well.
Beautiful.
At the bottom of our website. Only a handful on there at the moment, but that is rapidly growing, and we're adding to it as time allows. We're in full engineering mode at the moment, so unfortunately the website has fallen by the wayside. My missus has really taken up the social media torch, and I'd like to thank her for that. Thanks, Court, because I am not the man to drive that side of things, that's for sure.
Mate, it's the family business.
Oh, mate, you know, she gets it and she's good. So, you know, I owe her a lot for that. So thanks, Court. Love you, mate. mltindustries.com.au. You know, we've got a bit of other info on the site about everything. You know, we've got a video of a range test that we've just put up there so people can see, you know, how far does this thing go? Like, in action, live, essentially. We had to put the drone up. That actually took me 4 takes to film because I walked out of the frame each time. So I actually underestimated myself and had to go back and film it again and again and again.
Classic.
So, yeah, look, that's also not a bad problem to have. So that's up there. You know, there's more info about the SwitchMaster. And the final bit of that is we've got a 40% off pre-sale going for our V2 boards at the moment. So
there you go.
That sale will never be seen at that level again. That's for sure. We're expecting and fully on track for all of our gear to be leaving headquarters here in Darwin by the end of September.
There you go. So end of September 2023. So if you want one, you've got to get a wriggle on.
That's it. So, yep, we're full steam ahead and everything's going well.
Bloody good. Because, mate, what I'll do is I'll throw the links, and I'll throw the links to the socials and to the website in the show notes so that people can click through and have a look. But, Matt, mate, thanks for taking the time to have a chat to me today and explain some of the intricacies of this to me, because I really appreciate it.
No, mate, it was an absolute pleasure. Thanks very much for having me on. It was a pleasure.
Well, for everyone listening, thank you very much, and I'll catch you next time.